Hi everyone. Hopefully you guys are doing well. Welcome to Advanced Performance Management class, in which today our aim is to have a look on quality considerations, right? So far, if we see what we have covered, let's take here. In this, we made some chapters data, right? So we have covered budgeting, okay, and then we have uh, variances. Yeah, I missed the variances here, so write it that budgeting and standard costing. Okay, so we have done that. Now, if I give you an idea that how much syllabus is left, so I'll say it's approx 40%. So would you agree with that? Yeah. See, the maximum of the paper test these things, right? Now these things are tested, but not in a major proportion, right? And these things, just like transfer pricing or external influences, business integration, business structures. These are particularly, I'll say, the chapters that are already being read, the chapters that are already being read in SBL or BT in these exams, right? These are those type of chapters. So therefore, they are rarely tested, but when they are tested, they can give you plenty of marks. So now my focus would be to have approx 10 to 15 regular classes to cover all these things, right? 10 15 regular classes to cover all these things, and maximum practice I'll be having on the exam platform so that you get an idea, right? So what we should be doing now, you should be completing your assignments and attempting maximum papers that are available, the full papers on the ACCA exam platform, and as well on the other websites, so that you get an habit of solving these things, right? So that you get an habit of solving these things. So far, approx 50 to 60% course is covered, and now your main focus should be, on practice and making sure the topics that you have covered are being definitely made sure, right? The topics that you have been covered are definitely understood by you, right? So now, what topics we are left with? So now, what topics we are left with? It's simple, that we have to discuss certain factors or certain topics in this quality consideration, right? We have to discuss certain topics and certain things in this quality consideration. The one thing is quality cost. We need to discuss that. Once quality cost is done, we need to discuss TQM. We need to discuss JIT environment, right? JIT environment. Then we need to discuss target costing, and then life cycle costing, and then EMA. So these are particularly the topics that we need to discuss on. These are particularly the topics that we need to discuss on. So are they greater, or are they very well what we should be doing in order to cover these topics? See, they are not, I'll say, they are not that much lengthy. They are small. I'll say that they are small, petty issues of APM and can be tested, right? So these are basically the small petty issues of APM and can be tested, right? So what we'll do, we'll discuss each and everything. We'll discuss each and everything, and then we'll do one or two past papers, and then we'll give you assignments so that you can lock it, right? And then we'll give you assignments so that you guys can lock that, right? So let's start. Let's start with quality cost. Yeah. So guys, what's quality cost? So guys, what's quality cost? See, quality cost is basically a cost to make sure, it's basically a cost to make sure that quality is perfect for an desired product, right? Guys, believe me, customer pays for quality, right? Customer, or the prices, I'll say, pays the price, mentioning quality. Huh? Customer pays the price, mentioning quality. So therefore, quality cost are, I'll say, the desired cost that a person should be taking care of to make sure it's a desired cost that gets your desired product, right? So in order to make sure the quality, you incur certain tasks, you incur certain procedures. That procedures also have the cost, but ultimately you get your quality product so that you can uh, make sure that the market accepting that product. Quality is the primary factor to be considered, right? Quality is the primary factor to be considered. Now, in quality cost, there are certain costs to be discussed, right? There are certain costs to be discussed. Now, what are these certain costs, sir? Now, what are these certain costs? It's simple. One is prevention cost. Huh? What are these certain costs? So it's simple. One is prevention cost. Now, what's prevention cost? Uh, it's simply a cost incurred. It's simply a cost incurred on activities to reduce cost, right? So what's uh, prevention cost? The cost that you incurred. Huh? What's prevention cost? The cost that you incurred on activities to reduce cost, right? The cost that you incurred on activities to reduce cost. You perform some procedures, you perform some controls, yeah, you perform some controls to make sure the quality is fine, right? To make sure the quality is fine. Okay, so this is prevention cost. Now, sir, what's now, sir? What does we have now, sir? What does we have in appraisal cost, right? What does we have? The other cost. So the other cost is appraisal cost. Now, what is appraisal cost, sir? Now, what is appraisal cost? It's simple. Cost incurred. It's simple. Cost incurred on activities. It's simple. Cost incurred in activities to identify defects. Now, see, once your final product is ready, you do the inspection. Now, that inspection is the appraisal cost, right? Once your final product is ready, you do the inspection. Now, that inspection is your appraisal cost, right? So simply after final product, inspection of a product. You cannot just deliver the complete product. You cannot just deliver the complete product to the customer without inspecting it. It's your goodwill. So therefore, the cost that's going to be incurred here, is simple, and that's appraisal cost. It's simple, that's appraisal cost. You make sure, right? You make sure that these costs, you make sure that these costs are incurred before delivering the final product so that your goodwill remains. Now, these both of the costs are also known as Now, these both of the costs are also known as one thing, and that is conformance cost, right? Conformance cost. Now, these four costs are also known as conformance cost, right? So what's conformance cost? It's basically the cost incurred before delivering the product and making sure that your quality is intact right? So that will be known as conformance cost. Now, non-conformance cost. Now, what's that? Non-conformance cost. Now, so what's that? The non-conformance cost. Now, so what's that? It's simple. Non-conformance cost incurs when product is not as per quality. When product is not as per quality. So the thing that happens here is non-conformance cost. So the thing that happens here is non-conformance cost. Now, in non-conformance cost, what are the cost breakups, sir? So it's internal failure cost, right? So it's internal failure cost. One thing is that. Now, so internal failure cost, what's that? It's type of a non-conformance cost, obviously. It's type of a non-conformance cost, but sir, what it exactly mentions, kindly tell us. But sir, what it exactly mentions, kindly tell us. So it's simple that identification of defects, right? It's simple identification of defects in the customer, in the product, not in the customer, obviously, in the product, in the product before product is shipped to customer. So you were delivering your product, right? So you were delivering your product and certainly you realize that there is a problem. So you avoided that delivery. So now that cost is internal failure cost. That why your errors were not identified by incurring these costs, because you incur the prevention cost, you incurred some controls that tested, and then appraisal cost, that's testing of your product, you incurred significant testing, and after all that, why there were no product issues identified. And you identified when the product is going to be shipped, when you identified when the product is going to be shipped. Now that's a problem, and that's known as internal failure cost. Now that's a problem, and that's known as internal failure cost, right? That's a problem, and that's known as internal failure cost. Okay, now you haven't shipped it, so customer won't be angry because they haven't got the wrong product. You make sure that you now deliver the right one on time, but then you have another cost here, and that's external failure cost, right? You have another cost here, and that's external failure cost. Now, what's that? It arises. Now, what's that? It arises when defective products are shipped. It arises when defective products are shipped, okay, to customers. So this cost arises when your defective products, this cost arises when your defective products are shipped to customers. Now this cost is known as external failure cost. Now if someone asks you what are the quality costs to be considered, so it's basically a cost that company incurs to make sure that the quality is perfect, right? So it's basically So yeah, guys, we had a discussion on quality cost. That's a quality, a cost to make sure that the quality is perfect. Then there are two types of cost: conformance cost and non-conformance cost. And conformance and non-conformance cost has been broken down in two costs: prevention cost, appraisal cost that are incurred before the product is delivered. And non-conformance cost is that it has two types: internal failure cost, external failure cost, and one of them uh, is before product is delivered to the customer, and the other one is it's after the product is delivered to the customer, right? It's after the product is delivered to the customer. Guys, one of the students asked me that, sir, would you suggest us to read the book? So I'll obviously suggest you, if you have enough time, you can read the Kaplan or Study Hub that's been introduced by ACCA. So you can obviously read that. And after reading the Kaplan Study Hub, so which chapter is this? This chapter is chapter 12 in Kaplan, cost of quality, right? The chapter that we are doing, it has cost of quality, right? So these are particularly the chapters. I'm teaching you the extracts, but again, if you want to have a complete detailed review, so you can read the chapter, obviously, right? So quality cost has been done. We have a bit of movement that we'll be discussing JIT environment first, as it's been guided by your book. So JIT environment. Then we have target costing, life cycle costing. Yeah, before target and life cycle, we also have one thing that's Kaizen costing, right? So this is the format that we are going to follow. So JIT quality cost being done. I hope there is no queries. If there are queries, you can either ask me on my WhatsApp number. My number is with you, or you can text me on the Zoom chat box. The students, those who are attending live, are encouraged to discuss on Zoom chat box so that we can have a constructive discussion. Apart from that, you guys always can WhatsApp me, and we can have the detailed discussion, right? Yeah. So now, JIT, just in time. Guys, I guess you guys have been knowing this particular thing. I guess you guys have been knowing this particular thing. Uh, that's JIT. Now, what's just in time? It's basically just in time is that we never keep inventory. We just make the product once we have received the orders, right? We just make the product once we have received the orders. We are not entitled, we are not looking forward to any particular product. We are not entitled, we are not looking forward to any particular product to keep on our inventory, right? We are not looking that. We just want one thing, and that's once we got the order, we're gonna be making the product, right? Once we got the order, we can make the product, right? Yeah. So now, what's JIT? It's obviously extract of your books. They have written good examples, so therefore I have extracted it. So it's a demand pull system of ordering from suppliers, which aims to reduce inventory levels to zero, right? So it's a demand pull system, obviously, and it aims to have inventory levels at zero because you are not going to hold the inventory, right? It aims to have the inventory levels zero because you are not going to hold the inventory, because you are not going to hold the inventory. It's simple that you will get your demand and then you'll make your product, right? And that's just applies, and that's really applies on production within an organization and purchasing from suppliers, right? If we want to purchase, we'll purchase once we receive the order. If we want to produce, we'll produce once we receive the order. We'll produce once we receive the order, right? So now see, what's JIT purchasing and what's JIT production? JIT purchasing is a method of purchasing that involves ordering materials only when customer places an order. We'll order the material, but once we have got the order, right? And then when we receive the goods, I'll make into the production. And then when we'll receive the goods, I'll make into the production, right? I'll make it to the production. Now, what's JIT production? It's simple that it's a production system that is driven by the demand, right? It's a production system that is driven by the demand for the finished products, right? It's a production system that's driven by the demand for the finished products. You are not going to, and particular products, you are not going to make particular products until you have got the demand, right? Whereby each component on production will be made only when needed for next stage, right? Each component on a production line will only be produced once you have got the demand, right? So see, the word used that to be remembered is the demand pull system. Now, what a student thinks that they have to remember the definitions. No, I won't suggest that, right? That you be remembering the definitions. You don't have to remember the definitions, right? I don't think so. So what we have to do, it's simple. What we have to do, it's simple. You just remember the logic, right? What we have to do, it's simple. You just remember the logic, not the definitions. You should be knowing JIT, you should be knowing TQM, you should be knowing particularly quality costs, right? So you should be knowing these things, right? Now, so any particular thing any particular company that follows JIT, yeah, one of the famous company Toyota, it follows JIT, right? It follows JIT. Now read this. That Toyota pioneered the JIT manufacturing system in which suppliers send parts daily or several times a day and notified electronically when the production line is running out. Toyota never builds the stocks, right? What they do, when they receive order, they give to the supplier, and the supplier delivers the material and they do production, right? So if their production line is running out, they just notify the supplier and supplier do this. And yes, guys, it's done daily and sometimes frequently. It's done daily and sometimes it's done frequently. So it's been a great thing for Toyota. It's been a great thing for Toyota to be following on. Right now, more than 400 trucks, they go out to Georgetown plant in the USA with a separate logistic company organizing shipments. So they have hired separate suppliers as well. Huh? So they have hired separate suppliers. And why that? Because they just want to make sure they have hired separate suppliers. And why that? Because they have to make sure the JIT. And why is that? Because they have to make sure the JIT, right? Most located in neighboring state with half days trip to the plant. And yeah, they do the suppliers that are near to the plant. They negotiate with the suppliers that are near to the plant so that they can be communicated easily, they can be driven out easily, right? Now, Toyota aims to build long-term relationships with suppliers, many of whom it has a stake in, and says it now produces 80% of its part within North America. Now, see, why? Because their plants are in North America. So what they do, they make sure that their 80% of the parts are produced in North America and their maximum suppliers are based there so that they get regularly. Now, so why they have been in a JIT environment? See, car is a big investment. If they just overstock themselves, so their cash flow or their liquidity will be occupied and they won't have enough cash. So therefore, what they have to do, they have to make sure that they produce only when there's need. They produce only when there is need. Any question, guys? Now, sir, can the JIT be in the service operations? See, in service, there's no production, right? So in service, there's no production, right? It's originated, JIT originated with manufacturing systems, right? But JIT philosophy can be applied to service operations. Yeah, whenever there's a service requirement, I hired a vendor and performed that service, right? I hired a vendor and performed that service. So wherever there's a need of a service provider, I'll hire a service provider, right? I'll hire a service provider. So initially, it originated with manufacturing system, yeah, but the philosophy is simple. The philosophy of JIT is simple, right? Now, sir, what is the requirement to perform or to produce effective JIT system? What is the environment to perform or to produce the effective JIT system? Obviously, the first thing is high quality and reliability, right? There should be high reliability and high quality of the staff, because you don't have the staff or time to look at your stuff, right? You must have a good staff to be working on, right? Disruption can hold up the entire system. Just believe this, that if you're operating in a JIT, you cannot expect disruptions, right? If you're seeing a JIT, you cannot expect disruptions, because it holds up the entire systems and must be avoided. It holds up the entire system and must be avoided. And the emphasis is on getting the work right first time, right? The emphasis is on getting the work right first time. This is the first and the pillar of JIT, that you cannot expect or face disruptions, right? Your team should be that much strong that they cannot face disruptions. Huh? Highly skilled and well-trained staff should be used. Machinery must be high quality and fully maintained. Highly skilled and well-trained staff should be used. Machinery must be high quality and fully maintained. Long-term links should be established with small number of suppliers who act as a collaborative partner. Yeah, you should have a relation with the suppliers as well. Huh? You should have a relation with the suppliers, so that whenever there's an quality concerns, you can switch the suppliers. You have many suppliers, and if there are good relationships, so they will also try that they are not compromising on quality. If there is a good relationship, so they will also try that they are not compromising on quality, right? So they are not compromising on quality. This will increase prevention costs, but other quality related costs should reduce, right? Now, because of this, the prevention cost will be increased, because you have onboarded many suppliers, you are dealing with many quality providers, but again, through this, the quality would be ensured. But again, through this, the quality would be ensured, right? Did you guys got my point now? Did you guys got my point? Now, so another thing to be operated in JIT, yeah, it's simple. Any other thing to be operated in JIT, it's simple. That elimination of non-value added activities. You have to eliminate non-value added activities. The value analysis, value engineering, we are going to have a look in target costing as well. But here, what you have to remember, that you have to eliminate the non-value added activities, right, of a particular product, because customer is not paying for these activities, so you can eliminate them. The customer is not paying for these activities, so you have to eliminate it. So you have to eliminate it, right? Now, for example, value is not added while storing the products, and therefore inventory levels should be minimized. Yeah. So now, see what JIT believes, that if you're storing the product, it's not a value-adding thing in the eyes of the customer. They don't care whether you store or whether you buy. They just want the product. So you give them a particular time, and you make sure you're providing the product on that time. You just give them a particular time, and you make sure that you are providing the product on that time, and that's exactly what they want. Right? So value is not added while storing the products, and therefore inventory levels should be minimized. Now, speed of throughput, it's simple. The speed of production should match the rate on which the customer demands the product, right? Now, the speed of production should be same to the customer demands. If you're providing products slow to the customer demand, they won't be happy and they won't be dealing with you again. So you make sure if you're not storing the product, that doesn't mean that your customer will face delay. No, JIT doesn't tell that. You just have to align with customer demand and your production so that you can respond immediately and you can respond to the customer orders immediately. And you can respond to the customer orders immediately. Yeah. So now, lower cost, another objective of JIT. So how JIT can lower their cost? Huh? How JIT can lower their cost? Obviously, if you're not producing regularly, you're eliminating waste and you're raising quality. JIT asks you to eliminate waste, eliminate the culture of waste, right? JIT asks you to minimize the inventory levels. That means you will be lower holding cost, right? That means there will be lower holding cost and achieving faster throughput. Now you're going to achieve the faster throughput because you're going to make the products when they are demanded. You are not going to do unnecessary production. You are not going to do unnecessary production, right? So that's the key fact of JIT. Now that's a key fact of JIT, right? Now, see, there's a good example in your book. There's a good example, although the JIT topic is done and dusted, but there's a good example. So therefore, I need to look at this with you. I need to give you a brief idea of that with you. It's simple that a JIT and supplier relationship. So a company is a long way towards JIT if its suppliers will guarantee the quality of the material they deliver and will give it a shorter lead times, right? So see, a company will perform JIT if the supplier have provided the guarantee that they won't ditch, because you are totally dependent on your supplier, right? If they give you the short lead times, you're fine. If they deliver the material on time, they are fine. And if they delivers in small quantities, that's also fine. That's also fine, so that you can produce and you cannot stop your production, right? So frequent deliveries of small quantities of material to the company can ensure that each delivery is just enough to meet immediate production. Yeah, you have to make sure that you are maintaining the immediate production, and this will keep its inventory as low as possible, which is the aim of this will keep the inventory low as possible, which is the aim of getting your product low, right? Which is the aim of getting your product low. The materials handling time will be saved because there is no need to move the stock into store. The goods can be delivered directly in the shop floor, and inspection in time and cost can be eliminated as labor required for revoking defective materials or returning goods to the supplier can be saved, right? As labor required here can be saved, and the defects time will be reduced, right? Similarly, material handling time will be reduced, right? Because you are not going to move the stock here from the store. You're just directly production. You are doing production and sending it to your customers, right? See, now what a successful, now question rise, that's a, what a successful JIT, now question rise, that's a, what a successful JIT do? Environment do. So it's simple. It deliberately set out the cultivated good relationships with small number of suppliers, and these suppliers will situate to the manufacturing plant. Yeah. So the best JIT performer will have a suppliers which are near to their plant. It is usually for large manufacturer that does not use JIT approach and have multiple suppliers. But when there's a new part to be produced, well, your suppliers will be bid for the contract, right? But if you're a good broker or if you're a good manufacturer, you will have some little suppliers near to your plant, and you will perform the JIT effectively near to your plant, and you'll perform the JIT effectively, right? So now a JIT manufacturer is looking for a single supplier that can provide high quality and reliable deliveries rather than lowest price, and the supplier will often located in the near plant, right? So there's much to be gained by both company and supplier from mutual dependence. Now they both will be depending mutually on each other, right? Supplier will be guaranteed a demand as a product, as a sole supplier. Yeah, you will say that we have a demand of that product and you will be our sole supplier, right? We will be in particular area or in particular, right? But make sure that you meet the customer's production schedules, right? So if an organization has confidence, 100% quality on time, so that there will be no rejects return and no consequent production delays. So it's a mutual relationship, right? It's a mutually beneficial relationship that provides you guys a good benefits towards each other, right? That provides you guys a good benefit towards each other, right? Now see, Jaguar. I guess you must have remembered this name, huh? Jaguar. I guess you must have remembered this name. So when it analyzed the causes of customer complaints, compiled a list of 150 areas of fault, and 60% of them to be from suppliers. So they highlight, they just know that we are rejected, and 60% of the reasons of rejection are because of our supplier. So 1 month, the company retained 22,000 components to suppliers. Suppliers are brought on to the disciplinary task force and tackle each common fault. And the task force had simple objective of finding the fault, establishing testing cure, and implementing it as fast as possible. Jaguar director chaired the task force, the 12 most serious faults, but in one case, the task was force chaired by suppliers' representatives. Sometimes the company involves suppliers in their downfall as well, because the Jaguar similarly did. They highlighted the 60 reasons that why we are rejected, and out of those 60 reasons, the 64 from 150 reasons, they know that 60% of them, like 80 of them, are from the suppliers. So they involve supplier with them as well, that because of you guys, we are getting screwed. So kindly resolve this issue. They made the force, they highlighted the issues, they changed the suppliers, they negotiated with the suppliers, and closed this. So this is how the JIT and supplier relationships are effective, are correlated, and are mutually beneficial. Are correlated and are mutually beneficial, right? Now it's important that you can evaluate JIT, explain the advantages and disadvantages to an organization. What's the JIT's advantage? Huh? What's the JIT's advantage? It's simple, that will have number of effects on costing system and performance measurement, right? What are the advantages, guys? Allowance for waste, scrap, and rework are moved to the ideal standard rather than achievable standard, because now you are making the product when they're demanded. So you make sure there's no allowance for waste, scrap, or rework, because you have to deliver the product on time. So JIT allows you to make high quality standards, right? In fact, you believe that you're going to achieve the ideal standard and not the achievable one, right? Similarly, costs are only allowed to accumulate when product is finished. Huh? Costs are only allowed to accumulate when the product is finished. Huh? The inevitable reduction in inventory levels will reduce the time take and count inventory to the clerical cost. So inevitable reduction in inventory will reduce the time taken. Minimal inventory makes it easier for to switch to the back flush accounting, right? So if there's a lesser inventory, the accounting is more easy. You don't have to apply implication of IS2, lower of cost or NRV. You just have to simply account for these, right? Now, traditional performance measures such as inventory turnover are replaced by more appropriate performance measures. Huh? So initially, the inventory turnover was your measure, that how many days it requires to sell out your inventory, how many days it requires to sell out your inventory. And it's replaced by headcount productivity, inventory days, ideas generated and implemented, customer complaints, bottlenecks, right? So you involve your staff to more relevant KPIs. Huh? You involve your staff to more relevant KPIs rather than these, right? You involve your staff to more relevant KPIs rather than these. Huh? So management system will need to be capable of producing performance and control information consistent with the JIT philosophy. So these are the things that allows you to focus on JIT more These are the things that allows you to focus the JIT more, and that leads you towards having a good particular environment to make sure your inventory is in line with the demand, because you are not going to produce or overstock yourself, and you're going to produce just in time. The conditions are simple, that you should have good suppliers with you. The suppliers' plants should be near to your plant so that timely delivery can be done. There's no chance of errors. There's no chance of achievable standard, because you have a lesser time to interact with customer. So you make sure you are interacting with best of your product, right? So guys, in this class, we have covered quality cost and JIT environment. In the next classes, we are going to cover these are the following: the TQM, target costing, Kaizen costing, life cycle costing, EMA, and then your chapter 12 of APM. And then your chapter 12 of APM will be done and dusted. Okay. So that's all from my side. It's been a good theoretical class. We'll have 2 to 3 more sessions of these all costings, and then we'll move on to the past papers. Thank you.